Welcome back, Fish on Northwest. We're here in the Bait Lab for this week's installment in our how-to. Bait Lab presentation is brought to you by Sportco and, of course, Max Lure. Now, last week we talked all about the bait. The opening of trout season, as I have mentioned, is a couple days away. This week we're going to kind of delve into opportunity with artificials, casting spinners and plugs, troll fisheries, which so many of us love to do because you cover a lot of ground, you cover a lot of water, you encounter a lot of fish. It's a great way to find them. Casting and covering water with plugs or lures or what have you is also a great way to cover water and target fish. So some of the old standbys for me that work even off of my dock here in the backyard and any body of water I'll walk into, you know, for years, even growing up, I always have in my arsenal these Mepps spinners. You just can't go wrong by the red and brass combination out of these Mepps. Either size 1, 2, or 3, they all work, they all catch fish. Don't need to dress them up with anything else. It's that brass and red combination, I'm telling you, it is deadly. Sunny conditions, cloudy conditions, doesn't matter. Have some Mepps in your tackle box, you're gonna catch trout. The Blue Fox, also in the size 2, commonly, even up to a size 3, and you can switch it out to a single hook if you choose, although trebles are perfectly legal for trout. The vibration, the bell, the brass, the silver plated, you know, the historical blue on silver works fantastic. Maybe on cloudy days, or if you're fishing extremely sunny days with gin clear water, doling it down with a black blade and a dull green body, for whatever reason, trout really seem to respond to those color combinations. So sometimes, you know, we like to look historically. A lot of folks will indicate, hey, if it's bright and sunny, use bright lures. If it's cloudy and a little overcast or low light conditions, use darker lures for silhouette. And fish can pick up on that. Yes, that is true, but sometimes it comes down to just trial and error. And there are many days where it is sunny and just gin clear in extremely clear water conditions. I'll run these brass blades or gold blades on these Rooster Tails. Rooster Tails been around forever by YBC. Who doesn't have a Rooster Tail in their arsenal when it comes to trout fishing? Silver blades, black body, black blade, black body. You know, they all work. I really like the natural colors, some of the olive and green colors on the skirting and the brown and olive bodies, brass blades. All of that works in different sizes that you can get out of the Rooster Tails for castability. Really hard to beat the combination of the blade and body colors and the vibrations that Rooster Tails put out. Make sure you have some of those. One thing that makes casting and fishing spinners extremely easy. First of all, I have a rod that's, you know, 8 foot. I like 7.5 is great. 8 foot rod if you can find them, trout rod, 2 to 6 pound. I can cast things a mile with this. I put braided line on some of these, run it with a 30-foot top shot just for castability and durability. But one thing I will always do, because it does not affect the action on your spinner whatsoever, is make sure you tie a rolling swivel with a snap lock on there. It does a couple of things. One, I see a lot of folks tying directly to their spinner eyelet on the top of their spinner, and then they'll fish that for a while and they'll cut it off, tie another one on. First of all, it's time consuming. You're trying to go through your tackle box, figure out what spinner combination color the fish are attracted to on any given day based on water clarity or color, and of course, full sun or cloudy days. And it's kind of a hassle to keep retying. So put a swivel on there, and it's going to make changing out your lure that much easier. I know it sounds simple, but you would be amazed how many people I'm standing there talking to, they have direct tie. The other thing it does, if you're using a spinning rod and you're using a spinner, well, the spinner is designed to spin. The reel is spinning the line. So if you don't have some type of swivel at the head of that thing, trust me, after a day of fishing, your line is going to be completely spun up, and you're going to wish that you had put a swivel on there, because changeability, the options to just change that out throughout the day, figure out which color combination they're targeting on any given day and find success. And the fact you're not spinning up your line works out really well. Let's talk a little bit about plugs. You'll see here I got a number of different sizes of plugs and colors. Over here on my far right, we got these K4s and 5s. They seem awful small, but when you're talking planter trout and even holdover trout, these little K plugs work fantastic. The old standby F series, a flatfish, you got a F4, F5. The color contrast of these blacks and yellows, red dots, don't know why, but for whatever reason, trout really respond to these types of colors. F6 over here, this frog pattern has been around forever. This is actually an old school plug that I've had since I think I was even a kid. Still works fantastic. That frog pattern, I think it's the color contrast and the spots really tend to draw trout in. An F6 is a great size plug, has a lot of action, catches fish all day long. Moving over here to the Yakima bait mag lips and the 2.0. The 2.0, 2.5s work really well. The skip bead action, the colors, they have so many colors, it's hard to decipher which ones to use. Yes, you can actually cast plugs. More so, these are for trolling, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But for casting plugs, novel idea. First of all, they don't have a lot of weight to them, so they're not real easy to cast. But you can aid yourself in castability by adding weight to your presentation. Now, this again is just a simple 2 to 6 pound, 8-foot trout rod. This is that same sliding rig I showed last week, with the 4-foot leader on there for floating bait off the bottom. We put a Dave's Tangle free weight on here or a small cannonball and let that sit on the bottom. We're fishing a floating bait up off the bottom. For this, I use the same exact sliding mechanism, 2 beads, one to protect my guide, one to protect my knot, and then I clip on a stick weight. I could use the Dave's Tangle free or what have you. I throw stick weights when I'm casting plugs. Then I'm going to run that to about a 3 to 4 foot leader, and here I got this black and silver flatfish on here. This is about a size 7. This thing works fantastic, and what's interesting is this is a slow sinking plug. Okay, you throw some of your plugs out in the water and they will remain buoyant. Other plugs you set out in the water and they slowly just start to sink. Really doesn't matter when you're casting and retrieving. A little bit of weight out in front of that. With a spinning rod, you can actually throw it quite a distance, let it hit, slowly start retrieving. Remember, your spinning reels pick up quite a bit of line, so you don't have to crank them like you're, bringing back a spinner or returning a bait. You just simply slow crank on that thing. Let that plug work, okay? The other thing you don't want to do is put a swivel on there. Now, I know when I said for spinners, we're putting a swivel on there. It doesn't disturb the action of the spinner. It doesn't hurt the action on the spinner. With a plug, because these are weighted to the size and spread of hooks that are engineered onto the plug, if you put a size 7 or 5, for God's sakes, a size 5 swivel, snap swivel on the front of this thing, it's going to offset the balance on that plug. And it's truly not going to function the way it's intended to. And at a certain speed, it'll want to flip over because it's too heavy in the front with simply putting that swivel on there. So when it comes to casting and retrieving plugs, and if you haven't done it, you need to try it either off docks or shorelines or even out of your boat, fishing structure. Casting and retrieving plugs, tie those direct to the eyelets that are provided. Your plugs are going to work a whole lot better, okay? So that's some options you have when it comes to casting and retrieving. You can also do that with these Rapalas or Rapalas, depending where you come from. All this other stuff on here that's on top of this table. A lot of this is same with kokanee fish. And a lot of these are kokanee lures. We got the Brad mini cut plugs, kokanee cut plugs that we talked about earlier with the fellows. A lot of these kokanee gear or lures that I've tied have spinner blades, max smile blades. We're trolling this stuff. We're also trolling the humdinger and the, don't discount these little shad slammers by Max Lure. Simple little smile blade, wedding ring on there, a couple beads, and of course a single hook. You put a night crawler on there and start trolling this stuff behind a Dodger. Works fantastic, okay? Small, compact, but it gets the job done. Some of these kokanee lures, the wedding rings, the Spindrift smile blades by Max, all of this works. All these colors work, greens, pinks, reds. They all get it done simply by putting a night crawler on them behind a Dodger. Let's talk Dodgers for a little bit. We have the Max Double D, comes in a couple different sizes. Golds, I'm a fan of gold plated or indoor gold reflected, especially in full sun and clear water. The pinks get it done for trout all day long. Depending on how much action and how deep you want to go is the difference between which size of Dodger you're going to pick. The other interesting thing on Max Double D Dodgers is you have the directions right on the top of this here in your 4 pull point positions. There's actually 5 with the center one. But as you move these to either side, it takes your Dodger and turns it into not only a Dodger action, but somewhat of a side planer, and it moves your presentation out from the side of the boat. So you can fish your front 2 rods at an inside setting. You can fish your back 2 rods at an outside setting. So you're staggering your presentation in your troll so they're not right on top of each other. That is one unique feature about the Double D Dodgers from Mepps. You also have your Sling Blade series, multitude of colors. We also have our Dick Knight small Dodgers that impart a lot of really good action. Doesn't have a tremendously large profile. Don't really need it. You know, you put these Dodgers in front of any of these small kokanee lures or trout lures, and it just flat out works. Now, one thing you want to do is add scent and bait and attractant. The Potskie's Fire Gel and all types of flavors and colors combinations. Tuna, krill. One of my favorite go-tos for both kokanee and trout is the crawfish. If you haven't tried any of the Potskie's Fire Gel crawfish, make sure you pick some of that up. And of course the garlic, I mean, when it comes to trout, you should be putting garlic on your plugs and or your Dodgers and or your lures. Also, tip these single hook or double hooks with our Potskie's Fire Corn. Now, the Fire Corn works great right out of the jar, but you'll always see in my boat, I have certain words written on top of my jars. This one says crayfish because I've literally taken some of the Mike's crayfish oil and I put that into the jar and I sent this particular jar of red or pink corn up with a certain scent of oil. It doesn't get any easier than that. Taking Mike's oil, putting it in the Potskie corn, let it soak, keep it in a refrigerator. It'll last for well over a year. The corn is cooked. It is pretty much, you know, free of bacteria, and it doesn't mold. It lasts forever, and it works really good. It's durable, stays on the hook, puts out a tremendous amount of color with UV and the scent that you can't go wrong. And it's any color combination. This here is tuna garlic. Okay, this one here I got shrimp anise. So they all work. They all work for kokanee. They all work for trout. You can also take your Dodgers, and I do this often, especially when I'm fishing kokanee. I take some of my Fire Gel, I put it right on the back of my Dodger. Really put a big scent trail out there. And it's not always the same as in same scent here, same scent of corn. I'll put tuna Fire Gel on my Dodger, and I might run the crawfish corn, scented corn on my lure, and it works. It all works. We're just trying to put out tremendous scent. We talked about it a little earlier here in the show with the boys from Brad's, and diversity in your scent profile to attract numerous fish versus just one or two keying in on one-dimensional type scent in the water. So a lot of these options are available. It's mixing and matching, deciding what it is you want to put out there and troll. Remember now, with trout, we can go a little faster than we typically do for kokanee. Trout, typically we can go upwards of 2 miles per hour, sometimes 2.5, depending on the wind push and everything else. You're still going to get them. You're still going to get trout at 1 mile per hour as well, 1.4, 1.5, but you can run some of this stuff up to 2, and as long as the gear is working, as long as the plugs are wiggling and not rotating and spinning, as long as your Dodgers are, you know, putting a good cadence of action into the water, imparting action onto your lure and not rolling over, then your troll speed is fine. Often I get asked about fisheries, troll fisheries without downriggers, and is there a way to weight your presentation? Yes, absolutely there is. And one thing I've gone to years ago, so we'll just look at this rig right here. So I got a Double D Dodger, I have a Max kokanee rig on here with a 2.0 smile blade. It's about a 18-inch, 20-inch, 18-inch leader. So it goes to that Double D, it goes to my main line. Now up the main line, I have put a bobber stop and a bead, and I have this sliding rig with a snap swivel on there. I put another bead, and up the line a couple feet, I put another bobber stop. This allows this weight, or this little harness here, to slide back and forward. Now, I can simply take a Dave's Tangle Free, okay, and I can clip this on here like this. Now I've added weight to my presentation. Now you'll see that that is a couple feet away from my Dodger. I don't ever want to run my weight right down in front of my Dodger, okay? That makes no sense to me. That's gonna interfere in the ability of this Dodger to maximize its action and ability. So I take those bobber stops, I slide them a couple feet up the line, and actually the heavier the weight, the further up the line I'm going to put it away from my Dodger, so I make sure it imparts plenty of action. And I also put a bobber stop at the top just so it has a stopping point. That weight can only go up so far. And I like to leave those sliding to a certain point. It just seems to work better. It finds its balance point as it settles down the water there. And that weight will sink, and that dodger, you know, they'll also drag your gear down 5 to 10 feet depending on the size of dodger. So simply by adding weight out in front of your presentation a couple feet ahead, and people always ask about the depth of how much weight and how deep it's going to go, okay? It's simple. If you Google a chart on the old interweb there, something like troll depth and weight added to my presentation, how deep will it go? There are a number of charts out there. We've popped one up here for you tonight to take a look at. It basically breaks it down for you, adding 1, 2, 3 ounces, how many feet of line you put out 100 feet. That's going to give you an indicator of how much deeper that presentation is going to go on your troll. Most of those charts are figured at 1.5 miles per hour. Okay, so at a given speed of 1.5 and X amount of weight put on my presentation, and I put it out 100 feet, how much deeper will that presentation go in the water column? Those are interesting things to know, and instead of just shooting blind, you can take a look at that chart. We'll put it up on our Facebook page later. You can copy it or else Google it yourself. There's all kinds of different charts and whatnot out there. Most of them are similar, same, and very close in the numbers that they're going to put out there for you to figure out exactly how deep you're taking some of your presentations when you add weight to them, okay? And it's a good alternative. Instead of just always flatlining, you can add weight to your presentation. It's going to work. One other great technique, especially when it comes to trolling plugs, on how to get a little more depth if you don't have downriggers. So I'll switch up to like a light steelhead plug rod, okay? And I'm going to run on there a Lure Jensen jet diver. This is a jet 10, so it's going to take it down at least 10 to 12 feet. Okay, and I rig these also on a slider. It just, it keeps it separated out of the main pull point. And then behind that, in this case, 5 foot behind my jet diver, I've put on a size 2.0 mag lip. Okay, these little mag lips for trout will get it done all day long. Now, so 5 feet behind that jet diver, 6 feet, whatever you want to run, like 4-pound test leader. And the reason I run that on a small dropper like that, one, it has slidability, but two, as a fish hits that plug, if it's tied directly behind that Lure Jensen diver, now I'm fighting the fish, but I'm also always fighting that diver, which is directly in line with the pull point of the fish on that plug to my rod tip. When I put it on a dropper like that, it at least gives it the ability to flex and move, and oftentimes that diver will get kind of off out of the way as that fish moves and pulls around. I don't have any points of where I'm pulling against the diver and I lose good solid connectivity with that fish. So by putting it on about a 6-inch dropper and a slider, I can always stay in contact with that fish from rod tip to fish on that plug, and that diver will somewhat disengage, so to speak, kind of like our breakaway flashers that we're going to get into here a little bit with the Brad's boys. But that's my rendition of how to make that not so direct connect and forcefully cause you to lose a fish if it gets in the way. So just a nice alternative. If folks are interested and don't quite understand the mechanics behind that, I can put that up on our Facebook page or our graph to let you know how easy that is to do. It's a great way to get the kids into fish on the troll with very little gear and high success. Okay, that's going to do it for us here in the Bait Lab. We're going to jump out for a quick break. If you got any questions about any of this, go ahead and hit us up on our Facebook page or YouTube channel. We'll be glad to answer anything that you may throw at us.